Have you ever felt like healing became another job, another thing to do on your to-do list? Have you felt shame for needing a break, even though your whole system is begging for rest? Are you tired of healing, but you're scared to stop because you feel like something bad will happen if you do? Are you burnt out from healing? And if you are, it's actually not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's your body and your soul inviting you into a less strenuous way of being, of healing. And so today we're going to talk about healing burnout. So this episode is for those of you who are tired of trying to get it right. It's for those of you who have done everything you're supposed to do: self-love, therapy, inner child healing, shadow work, meditating, mindset tools, nervous system tools, journaling, subconscious reprogramming, and you're just fucking exhausted from healing, but you're scared that you need to keep doing more in order to heal. So in this episode, we're going to unpack why healing and personal growth fatigue is A, real, and B, often mislabeled as resistance, and why that perspective traps you in cycles of shame and overachieving and feeling like you're failing, when the truth is, when you bypass your body's real need for rest, for rejuvenation, for simplicity, for joy, you can't heal because you're depleting yourself without ever refilling yourself on a soul level. And, even now, healing is often overgeneralized and it's even commercialized and it's largely pathologized. So it's easy to internalize the belief that you're only lovable, you're only truly safe, and only making progress in life if you're constantly healing, if you're constantly working on yourself, evolving, clearing some quote unquote block, or, releasing something. And that's when constant healing and personal growth actually become dysregulating instead of regulating. It becomes a burden, right? Instead of a liberation. And people don't talk about that enough, about what happens when you normalize healing as something that you can't actually take a break from. The normalized belief that healing can deplete you and wreck you because you actually think that you're evolving through that suffering into some healthier or happier version of you, and that doesn't even make sense, right? That you have to truly move through daily pain in order to be a higher version of yourself, despite the fact that you're fucking soul exhausted and also probably secretly resentful of how much you have to heal. So there's very little guidance about that. And so that's what we're going to talk about and unpack in this episode. Welcome to The Simple Source, a paradigm-shifting space where self-love, healing, spirituality, and personal growth are redefined. If you've been told healing takes years, that abundance must be attracted, or that transformation requires struggle, you haven't been told the truth. I'm Linda Valines, a certified trauma-informed holistic coach, author, and spiritual guide. After healing myself from chronic conditions, complex trauma, and lack, not by following traditional frameworks, but by creating my own, I'm now teaching you to love, heal, and free yourself, mind, body, and soul, so you can reclaim your highest health, happiness, and potential with joy and ease. Each week, we go beyond surface-level self-help and into the real mechanics of transformation. If the traditional paths to healing and spirituality haven't produced the changes you want in the life you desire, you're in the right place. You were never meant to struggle or wait for what is already yours. Let's get started with today's episode. The truth is, healing, like all things in life, is seasonal. Right? It's not a constant. It doesn't need to be something that you practice or work toward your whole entire life. I used to think that healing was a lifelong practice, but I have exited that struggle narrative completely. You do not need to spend your whole life fixing your wounded parts if you know how to heal productively and authentically. And that belief alone, which is normalized, right? There's always going to be something to heal, or you can only heal so much. right? There's always going to be some echo of trauma, even if you've healed it. All of that is part of the conditioned struggle narrative, and not at all true in terms of your brain, your biology, your psychology, or your physiology. Our brains and our bodies and our nervous systems are far more resilient and adaptable and multi-dimensional and quantum than we have been led to believe. So the world believes that healing is a lifelong struggle. And so that's how most people experience healing, as a lifelong struggle. And even most spiritual or psychological frameworks still treat joy as a reward, as something that you experience after you've passed all those tests, cleared all those blocks, raised your self-worth, and manifested this or that. But I firmly believe that joy is actually a healing mechanism all on its own. Joy is not the result of healing. Reconnecting to your joy is what heals you. Joy is not the result. Joy is a homecoming because it's actually your natural baseline. Like when you're no longer living with distortion and density, meaning unresolved trauma, limiting beliefs and perceptions and nervous system dysregulation, that's your natural state of being, is joyful, is love. And, that's why I created a whole free workshop about the healing necessity and power of joy. It is that essential, and yet people still treat it as a luxury. And so in this episode, you're going to learn why choosing coherence over performance and perfectionism helps you reverse and avoid healing burnout and develop a healing practice that is enjoyable and sustainable for you and your system. Because burnout is avoidable, and yet so many people continue to get burnt out, including myself. It's something that I have personally experienced. So I'm a generator in human design. For those of you who know what that means, it basically means like when I get lit up, I get lit the fuck up. And it requires conscious, practiced mindfulness for me to not overdo it, because I'm just so motivated. I'm so driven by internal desire that I will just go. And so a couple of years ago, I was showing up for all aspects of my life, so full bore, like professionally and personally, yes, even in my own healing, that I not only depleted myself, I unintentionally became a shell of myself. Like it was beyond depletion. My brain was like rejecting me, It was like I was trying to reboot, and it was just like not rebooting. And so it took 6 months for me to even get to a place where I could even say I was recovering. It was true burnout, mind, body, and soul. So I know when rest can feel like a threat, when play can feel like a distraction, and healing can become a full-time identity that you don't even know how to set down. And all of that outdated programming that said, you're only worthy if you produce. You're only going to be seen if you perform, if you achieve, if you're successful, if you prove them wrong. All of that outdated programming was silently steering my life. And I was so caught up in my desire to heal and accomplish that I unconsciously put daily joy and rest and play and regulation on the back burner. And it cost me an entire fucking year of deep brain and body depletion and recovery. And I vowed to never let my brain and my body become that overworked again, because it all backfired. That's the thing. I mean, you think you're doing yourself a solid by quote unquote pushing through, but it doesn't actually serve you at all. In the end, it hurt me. It didn't help me. So let's first talk about that incessant myth that we need to constantly be becoming a better version of ourselves or evolving, that is subtly and overtly promoted in self-help and spiritual and manifestation communities and frameworks. So that limiting belief that healing must always be happening, that growth has to be hard, intense, or cost you something, or is an ongoing process, all of those beliefs essentially put you in a position where you relate to healing as another job, as a task where there is promise, but not a lot of reward. But, because there's very little payoff, because your energy expenditure isn't balanced. Like you're not coherent, you're exhausted. So maybe you feel like a quiet, relentless pressure to keep going deeper, to always be uncovering something, integrating something, confronting something, clearing some sort of quote unquote block, where your entire life is like this ongoing project where you never really arrive anywhere. Like you never really land in true peace or coherence because you don't believe that you're allowed to simply be yourself without fixing yourself first, without needing to shed some layer or reprogram something. But the truth is that kind of pressure doesn't come from your soul. It comes from internalized distorted systems and unresolved traumas and inner child wounds that reinforce hypervigilance, and you feeling like you have to perform or achieve worthiness through healing. Because your soul doesn't want you to run yourself through the ground trying to heal. Your soul wants you to remember that you are always whole, always worthy, and you do not need to justify joy or rest or play. And that is the root of healing burnout. It's a disconnection from your soul and an over-reliance on your conditioned survival patterns that never get questioned because they are subtly reinforced by all the self-help and healing communities and spiritual and manifestation frameworks that tell you that you're not actually enough as you are right now, that you have to quote unquote attract what you want, that peace and wholeness are earned through effort. So that deep soul-weary exhaustion doesn't come from still being quote unquote broken, from you not doing the right thing to fix yourself enough. Because your wounds are not burning you out. It's you trying to prove yourself by turning healing into its own kind of productivity. The problem is not that you are wounded, right? Most people on the planet have some sort of emotional, psychological, and or spiritual wound. That's part of being human. Humanity is messy. It's flawed. It hurts to be human as much as it heals. But healing becomes depleting instead of liberating and rejuvenating when you believe that it must hurt, that you cannot arrive at peace without first struggling. And all of that then turns off your innate intelligence and intuition that tells you, hey, let's take a breath. Let's allow our brains and our bodies to settle, to play, to laugh, to just be in the mundane and integrate. Let this be the season of rest and play, not digging deeper, not chasing more profound breakthroughs. And that disconnection from your own wisdom, from your own intuition, which is your connection to your soul, is why it's so challenging to rest without feeling guilty, why it's so challenging to give yourself permission to just stop chasing more self-improvement. You're not really soul embodied. Your body is still under the grip of outdated conditioning. And that's why it doesn't trust that rest and play and love and connection and joy are also medicine that you do need. So now let's unpack the science and the logistics of what's actually happening when you experience healing burnout or when you push yourself to heal, so that you do have an understanding of what's going on underneath the surface. So your nervous system and your body do not differentiate between physical exertion and emotional labor. If you've watched or you listened to my earlier episodes, particularly the How to Stress Less and Heal More episode, you know that stress is stress to your nervous system and your body. There's not a differentiation. That means every emotional breakthrough, every deep dive you do with your inner child through journal dialoguing, every shadow you excavate, every subconscious reprogramming meditation that you do is actually being logged by your system as energetic expenditure, because it's intense, it's emotional, it is on some way stressful because you're digging up pain, you're moving through dense emotions. And sure, you are probably gaining some insights, but again, it's deeply emotional. And so your nervous system tracks that as stress if you are not productively and actively self-regulating yourself before and after those experiences that I just listed. And that is like most people. So now from a neuroscience perspective, this is really critical because when your brain is like repeatedly revisiting unresolved trauma, like analyzing your codependent patterns that make you feel anxious and shameful, and you're constantly digging into old emotions, it really does shift you into a chronic state of allostatic load. And that just means like your ability to manage and maintain stability develops like cumulative wear and tear, meaning your nervous system becomes tired essentially from repeated stress responses that aren't properly regulated and resolved because you actually haven't paused from healing. So that means even if your healing is quote unquote conscious and you're being intentional about it, your body may still interpret it as a threat. Not because healing in and of itself is dangerous, but because you were never meant to live in a permanent state of mental and emotional excavation and exhaustion. Your brain and your body need a break from healing to feel safe, is what I'm saying. And that's what a lot of people don't understand and why they're stuck in healing overwhelm, or they don't know how to unravel themselves from that need to incessantly heal. And that's why you may feel bored even by certain healing practices that you used to love, why you aren't like fully connected to your joy and your play and your passion, why you feel spiritually detached. But you mistake it for neutrality, right? But you're actually just like kind of burnt out. Why you might say that you feel like chill, but you're actually numb. You're actually suppressing resentment toward your own healing, right? Maybe you feel compassion fatigue, like you're just tired of holding space for someone else and even for yourself. You're tired of reparenting your inner child. You're tired of tracking your trauma responses. Because that constant self-surveillance is actually a subtle form of emotional hypervigilance. Now, it may look like mindfulness from the outside, but if you're always scanning for activations and unhealed layers and this shadow aspect and that inner child wound, that's not truly healing self-awareness. It's emotional hypervigilance. And so all of those things that I just listed are signs that your system really needs to settle, like not break open more, right? From more inner child work. So it can just relax and do the background repair and restructuring that's required for neuroplasticity and biological, physiological, and nervous system change and healing. And I talk about this in the episode I did about integration, because healing is meant to regulate your nervous system, not dysregulate it. And that's why I have like breaks throughout my program. It's not just like course after course after course. I enforce breaks. Like 2 weeks, you finish a course, there's a 2-week break. I enforce that. You got to take 2 weeks off and let your mind and your body settle. Because people don't understand the value of that integration period. The fact that your mind and your body are not meant to just operate in chronic stress. Because if you're chronically stressed, you cannot heal. It's like basic physiology. Healing is supposed to nourish you, rejuvenate you, not make you more depleted, more scared of your own fears. And yet that paradox alone is like not questioned, because the belief that you cannot heal or grow without struggling or suffering is so normalized. And most people still believe that pain is the primary access point to transformation, not joy. And then that traps people in loops of activation, because if you believe that discomfort is how you heal, how you grow, then you're going to subconsciously seek out struggle and suffering. Even when your body is like, can we chill and laugh and rest? I need to feel safe. I need to breathe. And that's the only way that I can heal. But that belief of healing is a struggle, healing is hard, then of course you're going to reject healing being easy or joyful or playful, because you have that belief that it's got to be hard. And so if you're feeling emotionally fatigued, disconnected, even bitter, right, resentful, you may not actually be resisting your own healing and growth. You may just be experiencing healing fatigue. Your system may be asking you to transition from hypervigilance to simplicity and joy. Simplicity is not unproductive. It's very self-loving. It is soul-loving. Pausing is not quitting. It's not spiritual laziness. It's not regression. And I talked about all of this again in the value of integration episode that I did. So really listen to that if you really want to understand more about the nuance of how pausing and rest really truly recalibrate your mind and your body to reclaim safety and regulation. And also how you enforce your own sovereignty, meaning your choice, right? You choosing ease. You are not a slave to struggle. Like, you have a choice. You can choose not to struggle. You are free to listen to your intuition, to choose joy, to let your body's natural rhythms be honored instead of you pushing against them. You have that choice. And so the truth is, your soul does not crave endless insight and constant transformation. Your soul craves joy. Your soul craves ease. And yes, definitely simplicity. So when you overdo and you overcomplicate and you overachieve, you're not being real to your true self. You're performing what you think you need to do to be loved or to be enough or to be seen. And that is not you honoring your connection to your soul. It's you abandoning your connection to your soul. And your nervous system also craves simplicity. Neuroscience reveals that the brain and the body heal best not in hyper-awareness, but in co-regulated states of safety, of pleasure, of presence, meaning when you experience an present moment experience, meaning you're not reliving the past in constant trauma excavation, but you're actually practicing self-love and prioritizing joy and ease in the moment. And so that means that when you rest, when you laugh, when you create from flow and from inspiration, you then enter a dominant parasympathetic state, that rest and repair state where neuroplasticity and healing and immune function and detoxification and repair and emotional integration actually happen. And so that means that some of your most profound healing might not come from the next deep dive that you do into your most painful childhood wounds, but from just sitting in the sun, on the grass, under a tree, and taking a deep fucking breath. From art, from playing, from total stillness, from doing absolutely nothing and letting yourself not feel a single morsel of guilt about that. So from a trauma perspective, that compulsion to keep working on yourself is often a protective adaptation, okay? A trauma response in and of itself. It's a strategy that you developed to stay safe in unpredictable environments. It's you hyper-focused on what's wrong that you learned in environments and relationships and situations where attunement and safety or stability were not consistent, were not trustworthy. And so if you struggle to pause, if you struggle to rest and embrace simplicity, if doing nothing makes you uncomfortable, it's your nervous system stuck in old imprints where you felt being safe meant staying vigilant and doing and performing and proving and achieving. But healing is not measured by never feeling unsafe again. I think people don't understand that either. It's actually about recognizing when you're safe right now, right? By providing that safety to yourself now so that you can stop striving, stop stressing, and turn off that survival response so that you can rest and enjoy and love yourself as you right now, as you are, without bracing for anything to happen. That safety in the moment is what's important. You know, you can't measure your healing by saying, I need to be safe in every single moment for my life from here on forth. I mean, you have no idea what's going to happen in your life from here on forth. What matters is right now. That's the safety that matters. So now let's talk about the inner child and how they factor in here, because that's so important. I've done 3 episodes actually about inner child healing. So you may have heard this before, but it's important to bring this up in this episode because it really does contribute to healing fatigue and burnout. So your inner child doesn't always need another emotional journaling session or more emotional release. Sometimes they just need you to stop digging and start dancing and singing, to go to the beach. You know, sometimes for them, healing is sleeping in, eating fruit roll-ups on a park bench, laughing at fart jokes so that they feel alive, so they feel free. And now, of course, that does not discount the need for real productive inner child healing that's rooted in safe nervous system recalibration and somatic release. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying bypass that. I'm just saying it's not all that. Sometimes healing your inner child is watching 80s movies and eating flavored popcorn, because that is radical self-love that your inner child feels as safe love, because it's not performative. It's not forced. Because when you let their joy, which is your joy, be valid and real right now, not just as a reward for healing, that's actually when the real healing begins. Not through hustle and struggle and constant heaviness, but through true coherence, right? Aligning your mind, your body, your soul through ease, not force or exhaustive effort. And that's how you avoid healing burnout. That's how you honor that healing is not about perfection, not about productivity. That's wounding. Healing is your reclamation of your wholeness, your freedom, your well-being. And that is not going to be genuinely realized through constant struggle. It's realized through coherence. So coherence basically means when your mind and your body and your soul are not in conflict, they're on the same page. They are operating in agreement, they're operating in harmony and congruence, not dissonance, not distortion. It's when your thoughts and your beliefs and your feelings and your actions and your energy all share the same identity, right? The one that belongs to your whole authentic self and soul. And coherence cannot be forced. It is not the result of manifesting. It is not the result of raising your self-worth. It's just achieved through alignment. So in the field of heart-brain science, coherence has a very, very real definition. So the Heart Math Institute defines it as a synchronized state where the autonomous nervous system, hormonal rhythms, and brain activity come into harmony. And then that allows your heart to send signals to your brain that reinforced emotional clarity and regulation and resilience. So it's a physiological state, but it's also fundamentally energetic and also deeply spiritual, because coherence happens when you stop trying to struggle to be more, to attract more, to raise your self-worth. And then you start remembering that you do not have to struggle to be who you already are, to have what is already yours, to attain joy when it's just your birthright. So when you cease that incessant need to reach higher, to manifest or strive for your next breakthrough, you actually tell your soul, I remember that I am already everything, and everything I want is already inside of me now. And then that's when you actually understand what flow and inner rhythm is, because you stop giving your energy to distorted patterns where you organize your existence, your well-being around struggle and proving yourself. That's when healing stops being something that you have to do and then starts becoming something that happens through you. That's a big, big difference. And I say this over and over and over again in this podcast because it's true, but healing does not need to be a struggle. Struggle is the complete opposite energy of healing. So the more that you struggle, the more that you force, the more that you effort and you try to heal through that struggle, through stressing, the more you create tension around your mind and your body's soul's innate intelligent design to heal on their own with ease, in joy. And that's also why I say this a lot too. Healing is simple because healing is a natural byproduct of simplicity. Stressing more is not going to heal you more. It's going to make healing more difficult, more exhausting, more stressful. And stress, again, doesn't activate your natural healing capabilities. It suppresses it. But so many people are addicted to stress, are addicted to struggle, and they defend suffering as a way of life. But your mind and your body and your soul will never return to coherence if you continue to reinforce inner conflict by waging war with yourself, with your life, and with your own reality. And so if you want to reverse or prevent healing fatigue and burnout, then you have to prioritize coherence instead of perfection. And that is achieved not by doing a full overhaul of your entire life, but you can just start with small steps, small choices that do bring you back into alignment with your whole authentic self, with your soul, with the innate intelligence of your own mind, body, soul system. And yes, that means choosing joy. Not waiting for permission to let joy in. Joy does not need to be like Disney World level grand. It's actually more like that feeling of being held by warm bath water that feels like silk against your skin, listening to your favorite song on repeat, letting a wildflower on a walk occupy a couple minutes of your presence simply because it's so fucking beautiful. That's joy. And returning to coherence with ease and joy also means tracking your breath so that you're not holding your breath all day long, but breathing from your belly, breathing deeply so that your body knows we're safe right now. We can slow down. We can exhale. And that also means letting the mundane be extraordinary and letting life actually hold you, not challenge you. What I'm saying here is your perspective is key, and what you focus on matters because it directs how your thoughts and your feelings and your energy flow. So instead of feeding exhaustion and burnout by focusing on what you still have not achieved, you have to start training yourself to appreciate the mundane, the ordinary things in your life that you do take for granted. You have to start training yourself not to fake gratitude, but to live in full authentic presence. Because coherence, just like healing, is not an end goal destination. It's just a natural state of being that arises when you choose congruence over complexity, presence over performance, simplicity over striving. So recovering from and preventing healing fatigue and burnout does require a reprioritization of joy. You have to start letting joy be your compass, not your reward, and not joy as spiritual bypass, like pretend joy, right? Joy that tries to cover up your grief and your shame and your anger, but real joy that doesn't need a cause because it's just your soul's natural orientation. Joy that does not need anyone else's permission, because you don't have to heal more to be worthy of your own contentment and peace. And so if you're experiencing healing fatigue and burnout, then please let this land. You cannot punish or pressure yourself into wholeness, because healing does not need to be exhausting or strenuous. It's just the way that you were taught to relate to healing that makes it feel like a task or a test or a never-ending lifelong assignment. And so if you think that joy is a luxury or a special moment, then you're really doing a disservice to your healing, because it doesn't require a breakthrough. Joy doesn't require you to be finished with healing before it's a part of your everyday. And joy, this is very important, is a primary signal to your body of safety. It tells your body that you're not in danger. And then that allows your body to optimize healing instead of suppressing it, because joy is a literal somatic cue that says, I'm good. I can let go. I can open. I'm safe. I'm free now. And again, that's why I have a whole workshop about the value and necessity of joy. A free workshop that you can, download on my website, and you should, and why I teach how to prioritize joy from the start in my Source membership program. It's not just a nice thing to feel every now and again. It is legitimately essential to your ability to heal and to your well-being on a physiological, neuroscientific, and psychological level, and spiritual too. So in neuroscience, joy and play, they activate your prefrontal cortex, right? The gear for your presence, integration, creativity. And it also simultaneously calms your amygdala, which is your brain's threat or stress fear system. And so joy literally repatterns your brain toward safety, toward resiliency, toward connection. And also in polyvagal theory, joy is a key factor for ventral vagal activation, right? That state of social engagement when we're most able to relate and regulate and rest productively. But most trauma-informed models, they still emphasize survival and vigilance and repair, but they never ask the question, what would happen if we made joy just as valuable to healing as self-awareness? Because it is that powerful and it is that essential to authentic and lasting and productive healing. Healing that isn't a needless struggle. Healing that doesn't take a lifetime. Healing that doesn't drain you. So when you stop over-identifying with your wounds and you stop allowing them to dictate whether you're allowed to feel whole as you are now, and you can start trusting yourself enough to slow down and feel how you are enough in this moment, not broken, not constant, not in need of repair, that's when you can breathe. That's when your body can take that breath and start to relax and unbrace and start to do the actual healing work, like on a physiological, biological level. Because even though feeling your pain in order to validate it, in order to transmute it, that, yes, may be part of the healing path, but pain, again, is not the entire healing journey itself. Healing is not a prerequisite for feeling light and free. Pain is not a prerequisite for feeling light and free. Your peace and your freedom are not blocked. They are not withheld from your highest self until you heal. The universe is not testing you in order to give you more joyful experiences. Your joy, your peace, your rest, your play are all in your command, no one else's. And so if you want to prevent and reverse healing fatigue, you have to enact this truth right now, that you are allowed to feel good right now. Not because everything in your life is perfect, but because joy and peace are actually your home frequency, your birthright, your soul's natural orientation. And you're allowed to live that right now, not when you're all healed and you're the highest version of yourself. So if you've been tired of healing, if you feel like you're failing because you're not up for another deep dive, if there's a part of you that just wants to rest, to breathe, to be without a project to fix or some part of you to release, give that part of you permission to have peace. Because peace is your birthright. You can give yourself permission to witness the part of yourself that needs to try hard in order to feel valid and enough. You can give them that witnessing, and then you can give them love as they are without fixing them, without having to heal that part of you in the moment because you're exhausted. The witnessing and the self-love is actually healing. Right? The choice to hold space for that part of you without identifying with it is healing. Because when healing becomes more depleting than it's rewarding, that's when it's time to honor the need to lean into rest and joy and simplicity instead of pushing. That's when it's time to honor that coming home to yourself and reclaiming your liberation and your well-being and your wholeness is innately joyful, and that you can live that joy now and not later. Because reorienting to joy, when it's not a bypass, when you're not using it to suppress, but you're using it to self-regulate, right? That's self-love, that's self-trust. Because then when you are in those moments of heavier, deeper, more emotional phases of your healing, your system understands that that's not the default anymore. Struggle is not your default. Just because you have trauma or wounding in your life, suffering is not your default. There's a difference between healing from the wound and healing from the healing. And so the former is about repair, fixing something that you think is wrong with you. And the latter is about restoration. It's about reclamation of your joy, of simplicity, of ease, of flow, and love for yourself as a baseline, not fear of yourself. You're not here to heal forever, for the rest of your life. You're here to live. You're here to dance. You're here to sing on the beach with someone you love. You're here to love. You're here to let the wind kiss your face and not explain why it feels divine. That's why you're here. You're here to have an adventure, not to just excavate your pain until you're depleted and you're just numb to your life. And so you have to give yourself permission to stop healing in order to heal. I know it seems like a contradiction for those of us who were conditioned to believe that we had to do, prove, perform, achieve in order to be loved, in order to feel safe. But that's the wounding. That's not the healing. And so when you continue to approach your healing from the wounding, you just perpetuate the wound. So it's time to make joy a priority. It's time to not defend fatigue and exhaustion, and time to defend the right for you to feel joy, to make space for simplicity, to reconnect with your soul, and to love yourself more in order to heal more. And so here's your action step for the week. Every day this week, at some point in the day, with zero pressure, zero performance, I want you to pause and I just want you to ask yourself this question. What would feel most kind to my system and to my soul right now? If I weren't trying to heal, if I weren't trying to evolve or prove anything, and whatever arises, whether your soul's like, we need a nap, let's take a walk, we need to laugh, we need silence, we need music, we need to dance. Maybe we don't need to answer that text message that was really annoying, right? Maybe we need to light a candle for no reason. Whatever comes up, just do it. Not because it's going to heal you or transform you, but because it honors that part of you that just is tired of healing, is tired of growing and evolving and becoming the highest version of yourself. The part of you that knows that rest and peace do not need to be earned. That's your soul. And so if you've been efforting, of course you're fucking exhausted. So you don't need to effort more. You need to return to your truth. You need more of your truth, of your soul leading your life, not your wounding. And so if you're tired of healing, honor that fatigue. Don't label it as resistance or laziness or you not doing something correctly. You're tired. Let yourself be tired, and then let joy and simplicity and ease and play and laughter be the medicine instead of pushing more, because you don't remedy exhaustion by exhausting yourself. You rejuvenate yourself by returning to the truth that every breath you take doesn't need to be held and braced, that you can fully exhale in every single moment of your life and let go and let that presence be enough to heal you anyways. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope this episode awakened you, inspired you, and reminded you of what's possible when you love, heal, and free yourself and reclaim your highest truth and power. If this show has transformed or enlightened your self-love, growth, and healing journey, please like, save, and share this episode and leave a positive review on Apple or Spotify. And subscribe to be reminded of new episodes. Your support is deeply appreciated and truly helps this show so much. And if today's episode resonated with you, don't stop here. Go deeper. My book, Unconditional, You Are Perfect As You Are, expands on these teachings and gives you the missing framework about self-love that no one is talking about. So get your copy today to start reading and loving yourself more. And if you're ready for the ultimate healing journey with daily instruction and guidance from me, I'd love to see you inside the Source membership, the only holistic and comprehensive step-by-step self-healing program that is proven to work. Remember, you were never meant to struggle or wait for what is already yours. It's time to claim everything you want and more. All the links are in the show notes. I'll see you next time.